Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of A Dime's Worth with Dan. My name is Dan Matacchiero. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Driveway Liberty podcast. And we're bringing this video to you just to highlight some things outside of the podcast that we do. You can see Travis Horn's video. He's another co-host, and Wes Herndon's videos. He's the other co-host. Each of us are doing like little 10-minute snippets about certain things that we think that you guys might want to know about. So if you're interested, you can watch those videos on our YouTube page, the Driveway Liberty podcast on YouTube. You can also get the audio version of our podcast there. So if you like what you're hearing or like what you're seeing, then go to the YouTube page and hit the notification button because you want to get notified when we put new material up there. And then also subscribe so that it'll be easier for you to find us. If you want to listen to the audio version of our podcast, you can get that on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. So today we're going to be talking about COVID-19 reality versus perception. So Gallup did a survey of the American people on what they thought the death rates were from COVID in certain age demographics. The results are staggering. This headline says it the best. From Red State, new poll reveals how shockingly ignorant people are about COVID. How damaging media lies have been. And look who they have right here. The two biggest liars on TV. Or two of the biggest liars. So when this survey came out, Britt Hume from Fox highlighted some parts of it. So some things he highlighted were, on average, Americans believe that people aged 55 and older account for just over half the COVID deaths. The actual figure is 92%. And then the second one, Americans believe that people aged 44 and younger account for about 30% of total deaths, and the actual figure is 2.7%. And literally, they're getting this information from the news. The fear porn news. They just want you to watch. That's why they do this. I'll tell you a quick little story. Back during the second Gulf War, I was a sales manager for a big box electronics store, and we sold televisions. And during that time, we used to get all kinds of complaints from people because the CNN little ticker at the bottom was burned into the screen on their TV. Why? Because people had their TV on 24/7 on CNN because there was a war going on. The same thing happened during 9/11. So whenever there's a major happening in the United States, those news stations get 24/7 coverage. So it's no different with COVID. But the problem is the information they're giving you doesn't match the actual statistics. And this is highlighting that. Americans overestimate the risk of deaths from COVID-19 for people aged 24 and younger by a factor of 50. They think the risk for people aged 65 and older is half of what it actually is, 40% versus 80%. So then you go over here to the actual page where the survey is, and this is Franklin Templeton. And this is an article about the survey. So the misperceptions of risk, this is what you saw right here on Britt Hume's tweet. And then you roll down, and here's the data chart from the first one. So you've got share of COVID-19 deaths by age, beliefs versus data. Now the blue bars are what the American people believe, and the green bars are what reality is. I mean, you look at it, not one of those set of bars are close to each other. So first demographic is age 24 and below. The public believes that 8% of all COVID-related deaths are in that age group. The reality of it is it's 0.2%. It's a huge difference. 8% versus 0.2%. And then you move up to the next age group. The 25 to 34. 9.9% is what the public believes. They think just under 10% of the deaths of COVID are in that age group. The reality of it is less than 1%. It's 0.7%. Now let's look at the actual group where the deaths are happening. This group right here. Age 65 and older. 80% of the deaths with COVID, because they're not from COVID, because you don't die from COVID. You die with COVID. The only people who die from COVID are the people who have, major health problems like breathing issues like asthma or heart disease or reduced immune systems because of cancer and other situations. But basically, the people who have major health issues are the ones that are dying from this virus. But in reality, they die from other viruses too. They're at risk. So age 65 and older, 80% are people dying, but the public believes less than 40% are dying from that in that age group. And then age 55 and older, the public believes that less than 60% are dying, and the reality of it is it's 92.2%. So when we look at these demographics, why do people believe what they believe that's completely different than the actual numbers from the CDC? Remember the CDC, the one that you were required to follow all the recommendations? You see it on POP at stores where they require a mask because the CDC suggests that. The CDC, the brains that is telling us how to deal with COVID, they're putting stats out. Now, they're not advertising these stats. They just put them out there. The network news isn't being honest with these stats. All you hear is 150,000 people are dead from COVID. Reality of it is 150,000 people are dead with COVID, but that's everybody who has died that has tested positive. So if you get in a car accident and you test positive, you're a COVID death. If you drowned in your swimming pool and you test positive, COVID death. You get in a car wreck, plane crash, fall off a building, whatever it is. If you test positive for COVID, you go into these numbers. So somebody falling off a building, how did they die? From falling off the building. They didn't die from COVID. The person who has heart disease and has a limited lifespan left because their heart isn't working right, they catch this virus and they die. Do they die from COVID? No, they die from the heart disease. This COVID just accelerates it. But it's no different than other viruses. 80,000 people a year in the United States die from the flu. This year, I think the number's around 24,000. So why did we cure the flu? No, all those deaths are being lumped into these COVID numbers. So the numbers are completely skewed. But even with those skewed numbers, the American people's perception is way off. Way off. So why? Well, they dug into this a little bit. And basically, because of partisanship and social media. So I'm just going to read this first paragraph to you. For the past 6 months, we have all read and talked about nothing but COVID-19. How can there be still such widespread fundamental misunderstanding of the basic facts? Our poll results identify two major culprits: the quality of information and the extreme politicization of the COVID-19 debate. So people who get their information from social media, they have the most erroneous and distorted perception of the risk. They're the ones that think that people are dying at the age of 17 from this disease, from this virus. They're not. And then those who identify as Democrats tend to mistakenly overstate the risk of death from COVID-19 for younger people much more than Republicans. Why? Well, it says it right there in the next paragraph. This sadly comes as no surprise. Fear and anger are the most reliable drivers of engagement. Scary tales of young victims of the pandemic intimidating that we are all about at the risk of dying. Quickly, all those videos quickly go viral. So do stories that blame everything on your political adversaries. Just think about it. When you watch CNN and they have Democrat politicians on there, who are they blaming? Everything's about Trump. They blame Trump 100%. COVID's his fault. He didn't react quick enough. He caused 150,000 people to die. This is the information you're getting from social media and from the news. Sorry, my dogs are barking in the background. I'm not in a professional studio. We're just some guys in the neighborhood putting together a podcast. But we're giving you facts. We're showing you where to find this information. We're not just telling you what we think. We do that too, but the opinions that we give you is based on facts. So you can see this survey and the information behind it here. I've given you the webpage. It's Franklin Templeton's webpage. So go ahead and check it out for yourself. You can get the information. You can also check out the CDC website that gives you the actual statistics of deaths in the CDC that the CDC has compiled. I put a post up on our Facebook page that when you go to the CDC website, it's hard to find this information. I mean, to be able to drill down and figure out what the numbers mean is difficult. So I put a post up with a screenshot that had those numbers broken down for you that will help you. If you want to check my numbers out, I also put a link to the CDC place where I got those numbers in there. So feel free to check those things out. So thanks for listening and watching today's Dimes Worth with Dan. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page where you get these videos along with the audio version of our podcast, the Driveway Liberty Podcast. And you can go to our Facebook page, give us a like. You can comment on any of the videos that we've done and tell us what you think. If you want to listen to our podcast in audio, you can find us under the Driveway Liberty Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.